This episode has extreme language.
Hello everyone, and welcome to WTFFG, where we discuss the games of Fantasy Flight Games. I am Caleb.
I'm RJ.
And I'm Crimson. And I'm going to give a brief note to our listeners. All three of us love each other. We're good friends. Nothing's going to stop that. But there is going to be some love and some hate in this podcast. Just fair warning. Please don't feel like, oh my God, are they going to do more podcasts later? This is normal. People disagree. We are going to disagree in this podcast. But we will also agree a lot in this podcast.
But there's going to be fucking fighting words.
Hell yes, bitches.
Dude, the haterade is going to be real. Let's be honest.
Oh my God. Bring
but
upon
you will get
the
it
salt.
great. You will get a great podcast with both sides of the fence.
Yep. The right side and their side. On that note,
Yep.
we have some interesting news. Now, RJ, why don't you tell us a little bit about the new Melee rules and restricted list?
Yes, so what has happened recently, there was a group of individuals who got together and we were given very little direction, but we were sort of tasked with coming up with a restricted list for Game of Thrones, the Melee format. And the intent of this collaboration was to come up with this list for Stolic, for the Stolic Melee event. Because there's kind of no way for this unofficial banned and restricted list, not banned because there are no banned cards, but this restricted list, there's no way for us to really influence anything that FFG does. So this is 100% player made and agreed upon. I'm also not going to say entirely agreed upon. There were arguments for and against each of the cards, but I will discuss a little bit of that later. So I think the best way to go about doing this is I'm going to go ahead and read the cards that we discussed on this list. And for those of you who kind of sound a little bit confused when I say we, I was invited to help with this endeavor, so I was personally involved in these decisions, and like I said, I may not agree with all of them, but I will get to those in a bit. We will post a link to this list someplace. I'm not entirely sure. It's shown up on many different places, but we'll find the most savvy one and we'll post those in the show notes. But without further ado, for the Melee restricted list, the cards are Agendas, the Lord of the Crossing. For plots, we have A Clash of Kings, A Tourney for the King, Heads on Spikes, and the Annals of Castle Black. And the draw deck cards. For the neutral cards, we have The Dornishman's Wife, Flea Bottom, Relentless Assault, and Superior Claim. For House Greyjoy, we have The Great Kraken and Iron Victory. For House Lannister, we have Casterly Rock and Cersei Lannister, Lions of Casterly Rock, Queen Cersei. For House Stark, we have Catelyn Stark, Wolves of the North. We have Eddard Stark, Wolves of the North, and Riverrun Minstrel, or Wolves of the North. For House Targaryen, there is Plaza of Pride. And then finally, the last one for House Tyrell is All Men Are Fools, Lady Sansa's Rose, and Mace Tyrell. So, that is what we have come up with.
And to clarify, the restricted list for Game of Thrones is a little bit different from other games, whereas for like Magic, a restricted list means you can only run one copy of a restricted card. For Thrones, it is that you get to choose a single card off of this list, and you may run up to the legal number. So for plots, 1 or 2, as described on the card. The agenda, of course, 1, and in draw deck, up to 3. So it makes it a little difficult to restrict cards in this game because you are basically saying you get this choice or this choice.
Yes.
I get it. Yeah, that seems an interesting way to do it, definitely. And, that's an extensive list of things that Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of a block of cards to be restricted all at once.
Now, this is melee, not joust,
That's
right?
correct. Melee only.
Nothing restricted for joust.
So the format that I don't use anyways.
Yeah.
Correct.
Now, to kind of put some of this into context, the aim of this list, we wanted to accomplish a couple things. Primarily, we wanted to create more diversity and add some more variety to the game. And through some collaboration, we kind of noticed that melee games usually, the number of rounds that a typical melee game can last was 2 in a competitive setting, potentially. But that's what a lot of them went to. Just 2 rounds and then you're done. Somebody just took the bull by the horns and went off. And one of the things that we wanted to do was slow the game down a little bit to give some of those other archetypes some pull, to kind of pull the meta away from hyper aggro decks. So those were some of the things that we wanted to do. And one of my go ahead.
Yeah, that slow. It already takes an hour and 30 minutes for it to come back to your turn.
Yeah.
No, it's so not for me at all.
That's
I
kind
clearly
of what
nuts.
I'm seeing too, is that yes, it's good that we are allowing combo and control type decks to kind of rear their ugly heads in Melee as well, that it is not just an aggro format, but this, again, seems to be more of a problem on Fantasy Flight's side of stop printing power grab cards, because all you're doing is furthering the quest for the quickest win. And
it'd be fine if the pods were four people pods, but...
And most of the time it
like
is.
that.
Most of the time it is 4 or 3. Sometimes it does get bigger, unfortunately, but the ideal is 4, the shittiness is 3, and the shittierness is 5. But,
yeah, see, we call 5 lunch break. We need to take a
Yes.
lunch break in between turns.
Yep.
Right.
And that does concern me of if we are slowing down the game of Melee, and, most Melee games end up going to time, because you've got 4 people methodically and meticulously trying to figure out what to play on a turn to stop 3 other people from winning. Each turn takes a long time. So if we're slowing that down, it's going to make those rounds go to time even more often.
Oh, I got some shit to talk about time later when we get to the L5R.
Yeah. Well, one of the other things that we were noticing was the complete and utter dominance of Power Rush decks. You slap down 5 big characters that have renown, you turn them sideways, you win challenges, and you just stack up so much power so quickly. You also utilize cards that give you a lot of burst power, like Superior Claim, or over a period of turns, Great Kraken, or Heads on Spikes, and stuff like that. So my personal metric when going into vote on several of these cards was anything that gave you a burst of 2 power or more. I typically leaned towards putting it on the list, because I personally don't want to go to a tournament and sit down at a table with 3 other people that have Power Rush decks, and whoever happens to flip the coin to, get the best cards in their hand first win. So I definitely was not a fan of that, and I am one of the many proponents of putting several of those cards on the list, especially Superior Claim. I think that one was unanimously voted on to put on the list.
I completely agree. And this list confuses me a bit, and this is why I ended up dropping out of the Melee Council, is because yeah. But anyways, I digress. This list confuses me because it is all about restricting power grab cards, and I remember when I was in the Melee Council, which I still am just to watch and eat popcorn, but the goal was power grab cards and cards that let you get extra challenges in. And I see Relentless Assault is on here, but Olena's Machinations is not. And that strikes me as odd because Olena's Machinations is fucking insane. And you can just recur it every single turn. It's actually worse than Relentless Assault. But the other thing is River Run Minstrel, Fast Eddie, and Fat Cat in the Hat are all on here for Stark, but no actual River Run, which is a location that literally says when power is put on a House Tully character, you can kneel it to put another one on. The fucking location! Why is that not on there?
So the idea... River Run was on the list, but River Run and House Tully, or Tully Minstrel, they both fit into a very singularly specific Stark deck that plays that House Tully tech, which is fine. So putting both of those on the list, to me, didn't really make sense, especially since Eddard Stark also fits into that list.
True.
Yeah, and you don't want to restrict a whole deck.
Right, exactly.
Well, yeah, but River Run is actually more powerful of a card than River Run Minstrel. Because you can sit there and, yeah, I can put a power on a House Tully character once when it comes into play. That's great. Cool. I have the Blackfish out and River Run. I win 2 challenges and he is online. That seems way more powerful than I get 1 power 1 time for 4 gold.
Sure. No, I can see that point of view, but let me ask you this. You have to still make the challenge with the Blackfish. Would you rather have to force to be in the position to make that challenge with the Blackfish, or would you rather have the Stark player play said River Run Minstrel and give 2 free power to the Blackfish for 4 gold?
Well, here's the other thing, though, is the Stark is the Stark player not making challenges? Like, that's what Stark does.
Right, so they're going to make the challenges anyway.
Location, yeah, the River Run location only rewards them for doing their job.
Right, but the House Tully Minstrel comes into play and just gives you a free power and then a second free power for...
But we're also...
I think it came down to active versus passive.
Possibly. But the other question is, and we don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole and argue for 45 minutes on fucking River Run Minstrel, but this is also melee. This is also melee. This is not joust. So them restricting both, for instance, would not be that big of a hit, because House Tully decks are very powerful in joust and melee. And being able to have River Run Minstrel, River Run, and Blackfish, which they can in melee because only one of those is restricted, they can still do that.
Right.
Most people don't run Big Cat.
Correct. That is true, and I'm not going to argue with the Big Cat. I definitely lost the vote. I lost the vote on that one. But if you look at the other 2 cards on this list, there's also Clash of Kings and also that Superior Claim. So curbing back that power rush and that expensive or that cheap aggressive power grab, we feel adding Clash of Kings and the Superior Claim and Fast Eddard was enough to say, okay, let's give Stark River Run. That would be fine without them getting all of the extra stuff. And trust me, you are right on every single point that you have mentioned. We also, there was a lot of discussion about that as well. So this is not the first time that you've heard this. So.
And it's not that it's necessarily a problem, it's just that's why it confuses me, is that the whole point was that they were going for a specific thing, and then there's cards that are missing off of this list that can be worse than what's on it. Like, for instance, Olena's Machinations is not on here, but Relentless Assault is. And All Men Are Fools, Lady Sansa's Rose, and Mace Tyrell are. But the card that says I get more power challenges and can recur it every single turn is not.
I think a lot of it also comes down to the compromises that people would have made, too, for or against their certain card, and active, passive. I could see how this probably took you guys a while to come to this list, because it is something that would equal a lot of debate.
Yep. Yes, and it did.
And unfortunately, most of the time it's like hitting your head up against a brick wall in that group.
All debates like that.
Right.
Some more than others, but I do get it. Again, there is one other issue that I would like to tackle, and that is, now that we have Kingsmoot coming out of, I believe it's the next pack, is that immediately going on to the restricted list?
Well, Kingsmoot comes out in the Kingsmoot pack, which is the third pack of the next cycle.
Okay.
So it is not. Okay. It is far away.
Okay.
Now, on that note, I am personally against restricting a card before it has come out, which is why I voted no for Mace Tyrell, because Mace Tyrell hasn't even is not even in anybody's hands yet. It comes out in the Tyrell big box, but. Yeah, sometimes, like I said, I can't control the whole thing, right? No, and I made that point very well known. This particular card bothers me for this reason, but this was all done extremely democratically, and everybody had a chance to voice their opinion. And when it came down to it, on many of these points, like I said, my personal vote was in the nays, and so yeah.
That makes sense.
Now, my question is, did you separate everybody into different groups and then do a vote with an electoral college situation, and then everybody who voted for the good cards ended up losing?
No,
I'm just curious.
Because if that would have happened, then Red Viper would have been restricted. The Corset one.
I think Caleb got where I was going.
Gotcha.
And politics.
There you go.
Pretty much.
Now, there is one...
I had to
There you go. There is one card that was feverishly argued to be put on this list, but I would like to say that I had successfully argued against it, and that was Rise of the Kraken. Many of you know that House of Greyjoy in Melee is extremely popular, and with that card being on this list, in my opinion, would have gutted the entire archetype. And that is definitely not what we are trying to do. So I argued very feverishly against Rise of the Kraken being on this list, with all the other power rush tools being taken away.
And that was a huge thing that I saw in the group, was almost everyone was saying how Rise of the Kraken needed to be restricted. I get it. It's a powerful card, and it is a game-closing card if there ever was one. But that is literally what Greyjoy does. It would be gutting their entire faction identity to take away their closing card. So I'm glad that you successfully argued against that, because it would have just neutered Greyjoy. Especially with Clash of Kings and everything else on there, too.
Yeah. And if anybody wants to discuss some of our reasonings for any of these other ones, you are more than welcome to post comments, give us some feedback, and I would be more than happy to have a discussion with you and kind of put a lot of these in context. One of the other things that we did decide on is specifically the issue of 3-player tables. Let's be honest, 3-player Melee tables suck.
Yep.
Yeah. It actually, some experiments like that almost ruined Caleb and I's friendship. It was that bad. So,
yep.
Yeah. But what we have...
Please tell us the news on this one, because I would love to hear this.
So what we have decided, for 3-player tables, we are removing the Crown Regent title, and we are also removing the support on titles in 3-player tables. You still get the rival bonus, but Crown Regent and support are both gone.
What? Wait. No, wait. So Crown Regent is removed from 3-player tables? Now, tell me something. How did that come about? Now, hold on, before you answer that. They say that being a passive-aggressive little shit gets you nowhere. Boom, bitches, right there.
Yep, you're not wrong about that.
I raised such a stink over this, and this right here was actually the reason why I dropped out of the Melee Council. I'm, again, still in there, but I don't actively do anything. I just watch and see what's going on. But we had play-tested the shit out of this, and this was our finding, was the Crown Regent created an NPE for 3-player tables. Nobody'd fucking listen. Nobody would take us seriously. And now it's on there. So, it should say right underneath that, it should say, credit goes to RJ and Caleb suck a dick. Please continue, RJ.
Well said. I'm going to be the passive mediator and say there were other issues at hand, but I'm actually not going to disagree with all of that. But yeah, like I said, we almost lost our friendship over this topic. So anyway, so that is what we have for the Melee restricted list. Now, just to be clear, this is for Melee format only, and this is this was designed for the Stalic event, but just so that there is some list out there that if you're looking to shake things up for Melee, use this. So, on that note...
And it is actually unofficial, right? Like,
yes,
this is
100%.
Actually not supported officially by FFG.
Well, because the Melee format is not supported by FFG, so that's...
Thanks, Nate French.
Yeah,
but
so
yes,
that's...
So your local tournaments, if you have any Melee tournaments, may or may not use this list. Definitely talk to your tournament organizers before showing up in case you get screwed and half your deck is restricted.
Yep, spoilers. So, on that note, like I said, open up a discussion with me, and I would be more than happy to talk more specifics about this later. But the other piece of interesting Game of Thrones news, and this actually has to do with all of the Fantasy Flight Games competitive card games. So that's going to be Game of Thrones, Android Netrunner, L5R. When you go to World Championships, there is a new additional rule that made its way into a tournament document, and I'm going to read it right now. This is going to happen on day 2 during the elimination round. So this is going to be your top 16. 4 rounds of single elimination, yada yada yada. Additional notes. Prior to each game, each player will be provided with his or her opponent's deck list for a short review. Deck lists will not be available for reference during the game.
And on that note, go fuck yourself.
Well, funny you should say that, Crimson. Why would you say go F yourself?
Well, let's see here. I play Crane. I would like that my opponent doesn't know what fucking faction I'm splashing into my deck, or the fact that I have 6 counterspells and 5 kill cards, and know exactly how many kill cards I have. There's a huge difference between going, does this person have 3 assassinates or 2 assassinates in this deck? Oh, I can play this. He's played 3 Voice of Laws. He's out of counterspells. Oh, look. Oh, where the fuck did he pull that Crane one? Oh, it's right here in his fucking deck list. Fuck you, suck a bag of bullshit, you fucking pieces of shit.
I think I got some of that on me, and we live 6 hours apart. I'm gonna have to go take another shower.
Oh my god. I mean, Crimson said exactly what I was gonna say. Also, quick question. What time is Top Cut?
I see what you did there.
So, not only will you get disqualified completely randomly, but you also have to show your opponent your fucking deck list. Which, again...
Yeah, what do they want? Do they want to see my cock and balls next? You want my fucking blood type? You want to know if I got hemorrhoids or not? I'll fucking show you. Fucking get down here and take a look, you sons of bitches.
Whoa now. We'll just send you for last year's tax return.
Yeah. Will Crimson release his tax returns at Worlds? Here's the real question is... Okay, and this was the debate that I was seeing, was... There is not necessarily collusion, but there are people who go to tournaments who are friends or play groups, and so when one person plays one person and they find something particularly janky or a big surprise or something really crazy like a big combo, you usually have a problem of people telling each other, hey, so watch out for so-and-so because he's got this in his deck and you won't see it coming. Ah, thanks for the tip. Now I'll be prepared for it. This is not actually a valid fucking excuse. When you are at Worlds and there's, let's just say 100 people, and a group of 5 people go, and you play that person and fuck them over with your crazy combo, and they tell their 4 other friends, hey, you gotta watch out for that. What are the fucking chances that you're gonna play those other 4 people? Pretty goddamn slim.
Let's be fucking awesome, or let's call a donkey here. What this is this is fucking Fantasy Flight being too fucking lazy to look over the deck list and expect the opponents to do their fucking job because they are pieces of fucking shit. That's what it comes down to. We're too fucking lazy to do our job. We've had, 3 tournaments in the last year where, top 8 ended up having illegal decks. Yep. Let's instead of doing our job, we'll make other people do our jobs. No, fuck you. Do your fucking jobs and deal with it. And if you don't fucking like it, quit your fucking job.
All right.
All right. Let's
simmer down.
Simmer
Dial
down.
that back.
Oh, I'm so mad.
Crimson does not mean that. He is just overly excited. But I will say that that did cross my mind, that it did feel like this was a bit of a ploy. That it just kind of felt like, so I have to show my opponent all my secrets so that they can check to see if my deck's legal also. It's like, that's what you guys are supposed to be doing.
Yeah, I'm not.
Yeah, I mean, stupid.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure of the reasoning there. I would have been 100% happy if they came out with an actual announcement, not just trying to sneakily put it in this tournament document. It's not even a tournament document, it's a schedule. But anyway, just trying to sneak that in there, and that just seems really shallow. But it also, to me, really goes against what the game mechanics of these different games are. And I'm going to be actually looking at Android Netrunner. The entire premise behind Android Netrunner is hidden information. The corporation wants to keep their ICE a secret from the runner. They want to keep their specific agenda lineup secret from the runner. If they have any one of traps or anything like that, do they play Snare? Do they play Project Junebug? Do they play Scorched Earth? Are they playing any breaking news tag tech? anything like that. They want to keep all that information secret. Game of Thrones, spicy one-ofs, or specifically the plot deck. So to me, this is really going against the fundamental game design for all of these games. And Crimson pretty much nailed L5R on the head, hidden information. So that's what my biggest problem with this is. And, if I happen to make it to top 16 and I don't know who I'm sitting across from, and this happened to me at a regional, I didn't know who I was playing round 1 in top 16. It was a Targaryen stag deck for a Game of Thrones regional, and I had no idea what was going on. And that surprise factor is what got me. So removing the surprise factor here which is a core design for a lot of these games, is what I personally have a problem with.
Yeah, I completely agree. And to touch on the Thrones aspect of that is, what if you're sitting across from a Hyper Viper combo, and you're like, oh, cool, that's what you're playing. I'll just save all my nightmares.
Exactly.
That literally ruins the game for them, because, again, Game of Thrones is all about intrigue and surprises and stabbing people in the back and the front. And when you remove that, it takes the spirit of the game away. But Netrunner is honestly the worst, because that's the whole point of the fucking game, is you don't know what you're going against.
Yes, and I mean, it hits L5R.
It does.
Really hard, too.
It really does. It hits all of them in very different ways, but equally hard.
Yeah, and equally shitty.
I would say that Netrunner probably gets hit the worst, because everything is face down.
Yeah, I would agree.
So you can sit here and start counting cards at that point. But seeing their plot deck in Thrones, seeing what you're splashing, how many counterspells, how many kill cards in L5R, dude, this is not cool. Like, this actually has turned me completely away from competitive LCG playing now. Like, I will never go to Worlds. If they do this for regionals, I will stop playing in regionals.
It makes competitive down to aggro. Because you don't want to play combo, because your opponent knows your combo.
And then they can just out-race you. They can sit there and go, oh, that's what I'm trying to do. I'll have to beat you on turn 2 or 3.
And control, it's like, okay, well, now I start counting the control cards. It's just, it blows my mind how big of a fuck-up this is. Like, and they could say, oh, this is because of scouting issues. Fuck you. Magic has been around for 24 fucking years, and they never had to do this, because guess what? Scouting doesn't really matter. If you are that paranoid about scouting, don't let other people watch your games. If someone's sitting there staring at your game, you call a judge over and you say, this person's sitting here watching my game. It's causing a distraction. And the judge will tell that person to go fuck off. It's not that hard. But, I mean, we've been having tournaments for how many years? And this isn't that big of a problem. This is a much greater problem than any amount of scouting that you might get.
I completely agree.
I'm going to play the devil's advocate here. Ha ha ha. Primary difference with Magic compared to LCG games, we don't have $10,000 to $40,000 on the line, which is fine.
That is also true.
But also, to get to that, kind of going off of that same example, though, in competitive Magic, at the highest level for competitive play, you kind of already know what your opponent is playing. And there are many people of that same school of thought that are like, well, if I meet this person or see this particular combination of cards sitting across from me, I kind of already know what to expect and how I need to adjust my play style. So there are some people who would say, well, in the long run, in high-level competitive play, this doesn't really matter. But that is high-level competitive play, whereas we are mediocre gamers. So if any of us got to a top 16, and I don't deny any of our ability to do that, it's going to take some work, some practice, and a decent amount of luck. But if we as mediocre gamers get to that level and crest that threshold, this is kind of a slap in the face to us, in my opinion.
Yeah, but see, that also, I get what you're saying, and I understand you have to play the devil's advocate, even if you're going to burn in hell for it. But
Whoa! I'm on the rent to buy program for the bus. Now I'll save you a seat if you ask me politely.
Legacy just had a new deck come into Vintage, which hasn't changed in like 10 years. A new deck hasn't really shown up and dominated. All of a sudden, a pirate deck showed up, and if they were giving out fucking deck lists, then people would know, oh, you're playing the new pirate deck. But instead, you don't. So you're going to make stupid plays in the beginning. You're going to waste a counterspell on something you don't really need to. It's just... Oh, everything about this screams laziness and bad fucking idea.
And to also point one thing out that, RJ, you made it to top 16 at the North American Championships. So it's not that big of a stretch that regular Thrones, regular L5R, and regular Netrunner players could get there. That...
Oh, now we gotta kick RJ out because he's not a mediocre gamer.
That's why all of our shit is two mediocre gamers, because it's me and you, Chris.
Oh, that's right.
It's RJ.
Yeah, we're the ones that are average suckfaces.
I would like to point out and put a disclaimer, that is not my school of thought, but you can say what you will.
But the point really is, though, that you did make it to top 16 at the North American Championship for Game of Thrones. It was in Melee, but that's still a top 16.
But it's okay, because FFG doesn't care about Melee, right?
Exactly. I mean, hey, you did get a shiny Drogon playmat, so I must care a little bit. Again, we won't dive into the fact that they don't actually support it, but then they ran an official tournament for a format that they don't support. So, whatever, FFG, like, seriously, just please get your shit together before you ruin your whole catalog of games.
Yeah, I'm just going to sum this up to very specifically, eat me.
And I hate to actually agree with Crimson on this, but after what happened at the North American Championships, after all of the kind of train wreck decision-making that they have been doing lately, specifically for organized play, you guys need to dial this shit back, because all you're doing is pushing your players out the door. Like, you have turned me off of playing a game competitively that I have been playing for years, because me showing somebody all of the information in my deck, and also, here's a funny thing that me and Crimson were talking about earlier, it doesn't say you can't take a picture of the goddamn deck list, you dumbass motherfuckers. So, until you put that disclaimer on there...
And don't worry, guys. That is probably the last time Caleb is going to agree with me tonight.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Because, speaking of L5R, we had a big drop of news. So,
yeah, 6 drops.
What's the problem
6
with...
great big turd drops.
What's the problem with most of these games is they come out, they're fucking stale for, 6 months. I remember when Star Wars, the LCG came out. I actually quit playing the game before the first chapter pack came out because it was like 6 fucking months. I mean, it just was boring as shit.
It didn't improve with product, by the way. Like, the Star Wars LCG, it was stale all throughout the whole damn thing.
But... I might have stayed in it a little bit more. And now I was lucky with Game of Thrones. When I jumped in, there was 4 packs out. I was able to buy my core sets, and I bought the pack for the character that I needed, and then I bought the other packs, here and there and here and there and here and there, and it was perfect. So FFG has decided to give this game an injection shot right off the bat, a way that the game will have more cards at the very beginning. And so many people are very happy for this. A couple people aren't, but that's okay. They are going to be releasing 6 packs in 6 weeks. So the first entire Imperial cycle is going to drop weekly, 1 pack per week for 6 weeks. At this point, we will have that injection of cards that we desperately need, because the core sets right now, how you build a deck in the core set is you take your clan cards, you take 2 cards out, and there's your deck. Because that's literally what your decks become.
Yes, and I'm going to jump on the right side of history on this and explain why this is a bad idea. This is a brand new game that just got released, and they are announcing that they are going to drop an entire cycle in 6 weeks at a $14.99 price point per pack. So it is going to cost you, MSRP, $90 to pick up the cycle over that course of 6 weeks. Now, Crimson is going to argue you don't have to pick up those packs right away.
You don't have to buy all the packs right away.
We don't know that. We don't know what's coming in these packs. We don't have full spoilers.
But we do know that the first really big tournament still is ways away. Yes. So you will have plenty of time to buy the packs you need, and probably still have time to pick up the other ones. And if you think about it, most people get paid bi-weekly, every 2 weeks. $30 every 2 weeks is doable if you must have the cards. But let's be honest, none of us are, Worlds is going to be happening before these packs come out.
We're not talking about Worlds. We're not talking about regionals. We're not talking about Worlds. The main reason that people are playing this game is for local tournaments.
Right, which is casual setting. So you don't need all those packs. In fact, most people agree you don't even need 3 core for casual setting.
That is bullshit.
You can do just fine with
You can't even build a fucking legal deck without at least 2 cores. But...
Right, 2 core. You have to have 2
Here is the other problem is... Okay, so we're talking... so we are talking a $120 buy-in for 3 core sets, $40 a piece for 3 of them. And then we're talking 6 packs in 6 weeks. Let's say you pick up all of them. That is another $90. So without tax, that is $210 to buy into a brand new game. Now, here is the problem with the packs.
Over the course of 3 months.
Here is the problem with the packs dropping this fast. Is that this game is not fun unless you are winning. We have discussed this before. Now, when you are behind the curve because you can't afford to get all of the packs right away, and people are using these new broken-ass cards that maybe you didn't pick up the pack for because you're not playing that clan, but that particular card kicks the living shit out of your clan because the entire game is rock, paper, scissors 7 fucking ways. But the issue is that when other people can afford it and other people can't afford it, they are behind the curve, which means they're not able to get all of the cards that they may need or that would push them to an advantage or even on level playing ground. Again, we don't
But we are talking about behind the curve on a casual play.
Game is not casual. You have even said that. This game is highly competitive. People who get into this game are there to be highly competitive. This is the LCG side of Magic.
I'm not going to disagree that the game's not competitive in nature. But let's be realistic. If you want to be competitive in the game, you probably have the money to drop. If you don't, then go pick up Game of Thrones. You only have to buy, 3 cores, 4 big boxes, and 18 packs.
A game that has been established for years. There is a difference between a game that is already not fun out of the box and a stale game because...
Not to a new player.
You can also buy 3 cores for Game of Thrones and be competitive.
Not really. Not
I
anymore.
bet you, I could actually bet you $100 right now that I could build a competitive deck out of 3 cores and place in top 4 at a local tournament.
So what I'm getting from...
I think you could, but you've had how many years of
that
experience?
Doesn't
Can
matter.
A new player do that?
It's the... I'm not... Okay, so now we're arguing semantics over whether experience equals money. Like, I'm now confused at your logic on this, because a person who has a brand new deck out of 3 core sets, but is a new player, is probably going to lose most of their games anyway. Correct. Especially coming into a game where there are very experienced players, because the game has been out for several years. The difference is, they can buy in with 3 core sets and play competitively and learn the game as they go. Whereas with L5R, you cannot play competitively without being on top of the curve. Also, you can't build a competitive deck that's worth shit out of the box unless you play Lion, Crab, or what do you play? Crane, right?
Yeah, I play Crane.
Most of the clans suck ass. Now, here's the other problem that I have, is that why the fuck should I be paying for FFG's mistakes? If they didn't want the core set to suck ass, they probably should have playtested it for once in their fucking lives.
So it sounds like we have a couple different issues going on here. We've one that I think we all agree on. The core set itself is not entirely playable by itself. You need at least two. The ideal situation for, as their business model, you need three. So that is one issue. The other issue that I'm parsing out here is that from my personal play experience, this, yes, we have all talked about this. It is only fun. It only feels fun when you are winning. Now, from discussions with a few other people, and some of you guys, having a one core only deck just sucks. The game takes a while. But if you have a full air quotes tournament legal deck, there are going to be times when one player gets so far ahead in the first couple turns that usually the other player is just going to concede. Now, I personally do not like that it's not a mechanic, but that outcome. If I want to sit down and play a game, I want to sit down and play a game to its entirety to see what I could have done wrong. Now, with just, if you get too far ahead and you just scoop, well, I don't like that. That to me comes down to an inherent product flaw. But I will say that I do agree with a stale card pool. And I think that might be also what part of the problem here is. Having a stale and very limited card pool at the get-go is what is causing the you're only having fun if you're winning mentality. And I think with the card pool diversifies a little bit more and very quickly, not so quickly, but because I personally don't think that a pack is going to be released every single week. That's another issue entirely, but there's always shipping things and distributor hiccups and all that jazz. Like, honestly, I think in the shipping business, holding to a schedule of one pack a week is a tall order, but that's beside the point. So I am personally of the school of thought that having a larger card pool to get the game going is a good thing. Now, with this particular game, where I don't personally agree with some of the core designs, just from a play experience standpoint, I don't like that. So I think that's those are the broad issues that I think we're going to have to agree to disagree on. Don't you guys think?
Correct. And this comes to the point where, me and Caleb are going to say this real quick. We're both still friends. We just have a difference of opinion on this game. Now, the difference is I'm going to continue playing the game. Caleb's not. And, that's choices that you make whether you like the game or not. It really doesn't have anything to do with the six-pack. I think that might have pushed Caleb over the edge a little bit.
I was going to buy two core sets. I was going to play this game.
I respect that decision, too. But you know what we both can agree on? The most shittiest thing of all that I think FFG did out of this was not say they were dropping these six-packs until after people bought their core sets. That's some shady-ass motherfucking shit.
That is one thing that we can completely agree on, is that it honestly felt like a slap in the face. Like,
it felt forced.
Yeah, it felt forced. There was no... they had no mention of it. They didn't say this was even a thing that we were thinking about. Nothing. It was completely in the background, not a word about it, and then all of a sudden, oh, by the way, now that the game's released and people are doing launch events and buying core sets and playing in tournaments, by the way, here's a whole chat or a whole cycle getting dropped at once. Have fun.
Yeah, and I've noticed that that of late with FFG news, they're kind of bucking what they have originally promised that they would be doing. Like, originally we said we're not going to revise a core set, or we're not going to re-release a core set, and those cards are going to be eternal. Well, Android Netrunner with the revised core set definitely threw that one out the window.
Yep.
Coming up with this completely different accelerated pack cycle with the Imperio Cycle for L5R. That's completely different, and it's like, oh, okay, here it is. And from a business standpoint, for a lot of the reasons I just described, I can understand that. But at the same time, the problem that is going against that is the game mechanics. But that's my personal thing. So we've seen this history of, in very recent news, FFG definitely changing it up, for better or for worse.
And now I have one question, because I basically have written this game off after seeing this, but is this going to be the norm for L5R? Like, okay.
No.
So they're going to drop 6 packs in 6 weeks, and then...
Yeah, they're calling this an event.
Okay. So...
Yeah, this it's going to go to normal. They just... What I really think it is you can only put so many cards in a core set before that core set becomes $60 a core set. So I think, and they could have just put all these packs into a big box.
Yes, that was going to be my next thing.
I think there was a lot.
Good.
Well, a lot of people thought about that, and then a lot of people debunked that real quick. They're like, well, if it's a big box, then you have to buy all 6 packs. When it's 6 packs, you can cherry pick what you need right now and what you need later. But the other thing is, again, local wise, you can always share. You can loan people cards for an event. I will say this has not hurt our local meta here in Omaha. On our boards, most people are either okay with it or excited about it. A couple people weren't happy with it, but they've also go, well, I'll just buy the packs when I need them, and I'm not going to worry about it too much until a big tournament like a store championship starts coming around in like July or something like that, or January. And for the most part, people either are okay with it. Nobody said, hey, I'm quitting this game, anybody need my cores? Which has been nice for our local meta. Our local meta has quite a bit of people.
Good. And here's one thing with the releasing it as a big box instead of 6 packs, though, is that the 6 packs in 6 weeks feels like this is FFG's way of going, oh wow, we really screwed up this core set, and we need to fix this. But we're passing all the not savings on to you. And that's what really bugged me. Because that is honestly my biggest complaint.
And I can see I can see people being concerned with the price point who don't live in the Omaha area. See, in the Omaha area, we are fortunate enough to have a card shop that sells the packs at cool stuff prices. So it's much cheaper. But, I will say, if I had to wait 6 months for the first pack, I probably would fall off of this game because these core sets are just too
And
boring.
I completely agree because this core set it's fucking atrocious. I again do not know how it made it past playtesting, but this is the big thing: is it shouldn't be the player's problem, and that's what bugs me the most. Is that I wanted to play this game, and I have been back and forth because I thought it was really fun, and then it was really shitty because I thought it was fun because I was winning, and then I lost a whole bunch of games and it was no fun because it's an hour and a fucking half to play a match, and you just sit there and watch people play solitaire. And that could be just because the core sets are that bad, that the core sets are set up in a way that it is one person gets the momentum and wins, or the other person gets the momentum and wins. And maybe the packs will fix that. But what I feel that they should have done was released the 6 packs as a big box a month, 2 months, maybe 3 months at most after the core sets dropped, so that people could play with the core sets, figure out the combos, enjoy the flavor, and then get that big content drop, but charge $40 for it. Because FFG fucking up shouldn't be the player's fault, the player's problem. But also, like with Thrones, I think the first pack came out 3 months after? So that's the other thing, is most of the LCGs don't have packs drop 6 months plus after. They're usually pretty quick.
Yeah. So I personally am still on the fence about this game. Every game that I play, I start to notice a few things, and after discussion, I'm thinking, okay, well, this is maybe the approach that I need to take with this game. I'm still very much on the fence, and I'm not entirely sure if I am personally going to continue, but I'm willing to kind of see what comes down the pipeline. But so that's where I personally am on this. But good.
So I will go into a little bit of my experiences over this weekend. I went to 3 different tournaments. I'll be upfront. I won the first tournament. I got 3rd place in the second tournament and got 2nd place in the 3rd.
Nice, dude. Well done. That's awesome.
That is actually awesome.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Very, very fun. I am going to have nightmares of lying, but that is okay. I will be sharing videos from that tournament. You'll see me win one and lose to line over and over as a reoccurring nightmare and over. But what I can tell you from my experiences at this tournament... Now, Caleb, do you want to jump in before I go into the experiences?
I just wanted to say something about that lion deck, and I'm sure that you're going to go into more detail, but I did want to point one thing out that is actually in favor of your argument, which is, but also in the sense of that we both agree that the core sets are shit, but this right here, this lion deck that you're about to tell us about, is one of the reasons why the core set is bad. Is that this deck is fucking stupid, and it's not okay, and as you were telling me earlier today, you feel like there may actually not be an answer for this thing. And that's not okay, especially out of the core set.
Right. Now, to be upfront, this line deck is being ran by an extremely good player. I don't know if a novice player could pilot this deck as well as he does. Elliot is an amazing player no matter what game he plays. He was amazing in Game of Thrones. He's amazing in this game. He's super solid. Nicest guy you'll ever meet, too. Like, he's not the kind of, a dick player or anything like that. He just made a really, really good deck. And I enjoy playing with him, even when I'm getting my ass handed to me. And the first time, the first tournament I played in was at Sparta. It felt really good. People were just still kind of getting used to the game. I will say that I did win that tournament undefeated, so my biasness might show here where I had fun. The second tournament, I got 3rd place, and I still had a lot of fun. I have started to notice that there are clans that are really good that I wasn't expecting, like Phoenix. Phoenix is a super solid clan, and dude, I was totally like, oh, Phoenix is going to lose to Scorpion every time. And that is a rough matchup for Phoenix. But, man, people were making some really good Phoenix decks. My Crane deck is hyper control. Think of like old school blue counterspell permission deck is kind of how I run my Crane. The lion deck is an aggro deck, which means I'm already at a disadvantage because aggro generally beats control, combo generally beats aggro, control generally beats combo. That's how it's been for the last 23 years, and that's probably how it'll be for the next 23 years. But most people, nobody said they had a bad experience. Even the newer players who were learning, of course, this is a casual tournament, and, we're letting people do take-backsies and stuff like that. It's not like it's Worlds. Nobody's being super asshole-ish competitive or anything like that. And that does help the scene and changes the feel of the game a little bit. Like, I didn't feel so much rock, paper, scissors playing it physically with other people. There are bad matchups, but every game's going to have, well, this is a bad matchup for me. Even in Hearthstone, you're going to have that. Hell, even in Pokemon, you're going to have that. The Lion deck is, I want to play it. It looks fun as hell. What it consists of is reanimating their champ, swinging in with the champ, breaking provinces, getting double ring effects, and the recursion of that, and charging the champ in, bringing the champ back from the graveyard, using the unicorn card that changes the attack into a military, so they swing in with all their political, change it to a military, block and win it. Lots of tricks, lots of fun with the deck. I've seen the Lion deck honor out, so hit 25 honor. I've seen the deck, dishonor somebody, and I've seen the deck break four provinces. It's super solid deck. Also, I did the same thing. I honored somebody out, I got honored, and I broke provinces for my wins too. I think one of the things you're going to see is you're not going to see a lot of specialized decks. You're going to see decks that can do all three win types. I think if you see decks that are so specialized, they're going to win against some people and lose against some people. So the more you can make it so your deck can adapt is going to be very huge in the games. Now, we were lucky we did not see a lot of Scorpion players. Scorpion is a bad matchup for me. Like, hands down, just a bad matchup for me. Other than that, we had a blast. I think the first tournament, since it was the very first tournament, we had like 6 people. Then the next tournament we had 8. Then the next tournament we had like 12. So we are seeing the numbers climb, and we're hoping to get more and more people in. A lot of it is just getting the information out there for people too. Hey, there's a tournament. Since these tournaments were so sprung on the moment, people can't, people have lives. And you're just like, oh, well, I have plans this week. Next week I won't make plans knowing that there's a tournament. Just in the end, it was much more enjoyable than I thought it was going to be, because playing it on tabletop, it was a lot of rock, paper, scissors. It felt like, oh, well, I didn't have fun, so this game sucks. I didn't really feel that even in the losses playing in person. Also, the matches were much faster. I never went to time, and I'm playing Crane, which is amazing. Now, we did have a couple people that did go to time. Generally, it was 2 newer players playing each other, and that's why it went to time. The tiebreakers for this game is when time is called, you finish any conflicts you're in the current process, and then you stop. And then whoever has more honor gains 2 points. You gain 2 points for every province you broke, and whoever has the imperial favor gains 1 point. And the person with the most points wins the match. So when you hear that 5-minute warning, a lot of times people are going to go, okay, what can I do to make the most points? Okay, I can bid 1, maybe I'll get some honor off of them, gain a little bit of honor, get the 2 points there, and break that province. This way I get another 2 points. That is a win condition. Time is a win condition. But we generally did not see time being called on people unless they were still relatively new.
I actually have a question for that, because from the sound of it, it actually gives a clear-cut win when it goes to time. Is that the case, or is it like, well, the other LCGs where it gives a modified win?
It's a straight win, I think. It may be a modified win at Worlds, but for our purposes at the local tournament, it is a straight win.
That actually...
with the tiebreaker being... The tiebreaker being favored. Okay. The one part that irritates me to no end is, say, nobody gained the favor. So now you have a tiebreaker that's not there. And now you're looking... So what you do is if you do have a tie on that point, then whichever player went second wins. The problem with that is this game is I win the coin flip, I must go first, not I choose who goes first.
I don't like that at all. And that
is the one rule that we're going to see people complain about until FFG changes it to state, randomly decide who chooses to go first.
Oh, because it's forced, isn't it?
It's forced.
Yeah, you can't build a tiebreaker around something that's forced. I'm sorry, that doesn't work. But I do think that it is awesome if it does give a full win, because it actually is flavorful of going, okay, time on the round, we finished this last turn. I can get a win if I break that province and drop you by X amount of honor. And you can get the win against me if you do this and this and this. And then it almost creates this, berserk mode for both players of trying to just smash each other as hard as they can to get those last couple of points. So I think that is actually super cool, but the coin flip for that, I'm not a big fan.
Yeah, I'm also not a big fan of that, but I don't have enough information, I feel, to make a educated judgment on it right now. So I'll have to do some reading and kind of maybe even see how it pans out from my firsthand experience. That's where a lot of my information comes from, is just really a gut feeling. So
yeah, and to be honest, different metas are doing the coin flip differently, because in the rulebook it just says decide randomly who goes first. Well, I flip the coin, I win, and I choose who goes first is still random, because my choosing is based off of a random event. But our tournament organizer has ruled it, you're forced. Mm-hmm. I know at Gen Con, they allowed the choose.
Which I would probably go off of what they did at Gen Con, since that was an official tournament. But they like to change their shit, right, too. I don't know, start times for top 16.
Yep. So it just comes down to waiting for them to release an official, document saying how it works, which will be the frequently asked questions, which will be coming out shortly.
So I think from what we've discussed with that rule and specifically, and with some of the AGOT stuff, this is really coming down to, hey, FFG, specifically organized play, you guys kind of need to, step up your game a little bit, because if you have this much feedback from a community, if you're going to be a smart business, you're going to want to listen to your community, because when it comes down to it, we're all here to hopefully have fun. We're all here to build that community. And I think, that's a resource that they shouldn't ignore. And that's kind of, I'm not really sure where I'm going with this, so I'm just going to leave it at, hey, FFG, organized play, listen to your players, because those are the ones who are going to make your company money. So, but do we have any closing thoughts on L5R and all of this awesome stuff?
Just one on the organized play of that. It really is just kind of souring that they are dropping the ball on all of their games all at once. after having a track record of actually doing really well with, like, first edition Game of Thrones, Call of Cthulhu, and some of the other games that came out before. So it's really just kind of a disappointment for me that they're going this route and just kind of screwing their players over.
Yeah, and my last note is I've said what I want to say about L5R. Either, you're on that side of the fence or you're not, and and there's no wrong side of the fence, by the way. There is no wrong choice here. Like, and I want people to understand that. But we did lose a developer for L5R. One of the developers did leave his position, which means the next couple rotations after this Imperial cycle is going to be more Nate French and the other developer.
Out. Thanks. So, that's all I needed to know. I'm out.
Well, on that note, I think we're going to move it back to another game, and this last segment is really just going to be kind of brief, but we're going to talk about an announcement for the Arkham Horror game. And I'm not going to lie, Arkham Horror, the card game, and some of these other cooperative LCGs, at least personally to me, are starting to look more and more appealing. So,
it looks like we might have lost RJ there. Well, let's give him a little bit to reconnect. Arkham Horror is coming out with a bunch of new stuff, too. Let's see here. The novellas. Now, Caleb, you brought this to my attention, so you might have a little bit more information on this than me. But supposedly they're going to come out with a character card and a couple exclusive cards?
Yeah, so So I am a huge Lovecraftian fan. Let's start that off. I have literally... And a book nerd. I am a librarian in my everyday life, after all. But I also have never read any of Lovecraft stuff. I've just always been obsessed with the Cthulhu mythos because it's always fascinated me. But I will be changing that. I will be actually reading some of Lovecraft stuff, even though I've heard it's very Tolkien-esque, where it's very hard to read.
Yeah. Oh, it's very hard to read. Oh,
that's why
it's like hernia.
That's why I probably won't be reading a ton of it. But one thing I will be reading are these novellas. These actually struck me as very cool. So the first one that is coming out, and these are actually officially from FFG, we have Hour of the Huntress, which is the story of Jenny Barnes, who is a rogue character from Arkham Horror. Now, the interesting thing for me was that they started with Jenny Barnes, who came out of the first big box, rather than starting with one of the core set characters. But I also haven't got to dive into the Arkham Horror universe to see who really the bigger characters are for the story pieces. But this really shined for me. Now, for a novella, it is also written by Dave Gross, which I have not read any of his stuff, but I am curious to see. Now, it is hardback. The art for it is incredible. There is illustrations in the book. And it just looks like a very high-quality book. But it does come with a $15 price tag for a novella. That irked me a little bit. I literally just flipped right over.
Yeah, that's rather expensive. I mean, most paperback novels you're looking at $5.99, $6.99.
And now this
tops.
one is a hardcover. But it does feel like it just had a higher price point than necessary. I would have expected 10, and I would have been cool with 10. Now, I will end up picking this up because Arkham Horror is something that I will continue to dive into. And for on an LCG standpoint, we were talking about how the competitive side of everything. Hi, welcome back, RJ. The competitive side of games where you have to constantly keep on top of things, whereas Arkham Horror you don't. You get 2 core sets and you can play till the end of days. But one thing that actually hit me pretty hard for this novella was that it comes with exclusive cards. Um, I don't like that. I don't think that anything outside of the game should come with exclusive cards. I don't know.
I agree also. But I'm going to get them because they're going to be worth money.
Not as much. I mean, they will be probably eventually way down the road. You'll probably be able to sell them for a little bit. But again, with a co-op game, there's no reason to get out of it because you're never going to be behind. Like, even if you have 2 whole cycles that you haven't bought, you can still play that game with a group of friends or by yourself, which is a great thing about Arkham Horror. But it does come with an alternate art Jenny Barnes card and the mini card for on the actual grid, which both look fucking incredible. I am not gonna lie. They look absolutely incredible. But it does come with two exclusive signature cards, which are Sacrificial Beast and Green Man Medallion. These are cards that have not been released in any other form. They are not alternate art. These are actually exclusively from this novella.
And they may come out in a future pack, too. And, also. It just depends on how FFG
that
wants
actually
to do it.
will not happen. Now, again, the FFG is, of course, subject to change because they basically flip a coin to decide what mood they're in each day. But this has been said. These are exclusive to the novellas. And they have done some similar things like this before, but what this felt like to me was this was Mana Crypt from Magic all over again. And yes. I don't like that. I really, really don't. Am I still going to pick up this book? Yes, because I was going to get it anyway. But if it would have been any more expensive than $15, there is no fucking way. Like, it feels like they're trying to charge you for the exclusive cards on top of the book. So it's you're going to have to gauge your own interest. If you want the book, great. If you want the exclusive cards, it may not be worth it.
Yeah. I'm personally really excited about this because I like some of this extra fluff and stuff, but they have also done this for for a special product for the Android Netrunner. And what they did was there was an art book, essentially, is what it was. And they, if you got an advanced copy of it, you got some extra prints and some extra, an extra playmat. So they have done this in the past, and I really like the art book for the Android Netrunner product, but I'm also equally interested in this story, and I too am really liking the Arkham Horror cooperative games a lot more, so I'm definitely also going to pick this up, and I don't really have a problem with the exclusive card, so that's that. But yeah.
Yeah, and I don't feel like it's going to create a big enough problem because, again, this is not a competitive game. So you're not going to have that sense of Mana Crypt, where you're going to go, oh god, I didn't get that card, and now they're out, so I'll never get it, and I'll be behind the curve, and that card's going to be $500 someday. That's not going to happen. But it just felt, again, and I may be just skewed with what else FFG has been doing lately of kind of, I don't know, the shadiness of releasing exclusive stuff and with their organized play and just so much. But this felt just like extra shadiness, and I don't want that to be their new business model because I don't really like it. And I might be the only one. But one thing that I will say is that I am super excited for the book. I am super excited for the alternate art Jenny Barnes that looks freaking gorgeous. Go check it out. It is on fantasyflightgames.com under the news, but you can also, we'll put a link in the show notes to it if you guys want to check it out. But it looks like it is going to be a prequel to the actual Arkham Horror. It's going to kind of tell her story, and they're supposed to do this for each investigator. So, check that out. Play some Arkham Horror. Jump on Discord with us so we can play Arkham Horror on tabletop. Does anybody else have any closing thoughts?
Nope. I think this was a great discussion and something that the community definitely will need to continue this discussion.
And
too.
I do want to point out that, like Crimson was saying, there is no right or wrong side of the fence of whether you want to keep playing Legend of the Five Rings, because it is completely up to you, and that really is kind of the thing, is that if you can afford it, then go for it if you like the game. But if you don't, or you're kind of on the fence, maybe wait a while, see how the game pans out. RJ, did you have something?
Yeah, I also kind of want to come from the standpoint of I personally really like a lot of the FFG products and kind of what's behind them. Some of our discussions have come about because we are passionate about gaming, and we are hypercritical about many times the games that we like playing. We want them to be the best that they can be. So I've stated kind of my feelings on L5R and some of the specific things with Game of Thrones and other stuff. So I just want to come out and say from that perspective, I am not knocking most of these games, but we are super passionate about what we do, and we are really critical about it. And that is going to lead to discussions and arguments like that. So that's kind of all I have to say, and I'll be ending on that.
Yeah, and I think that's a great way to put it, that, we are not trying to bash these games, we are just very passionate about them, and we also have kind of a high standard when it comes to organized play specifically, and that's why we get a bit passionate and excited and verbally aggressive.
Yes, no, we're definitely not bashing the games. We are excited for all these fun games, and just, we are going to be passionate about our hobbies, because we put a lot of money and a lot of effort into our hobbies. These are the things that we do after work, because work sucks ass. And, it's good to be passionate.
Definitely. Well, I guess that's going to be it for us for this week's episode of WTFFG. We will have a new episode out in 2 weeks, where we will talk about our experiences with some of the new Arkham Horror content, because we've been super behind, so we haven't had a chance to dive into Path of Carcosa. So we're going to try to do that, and we're going to talk more about L5R and Thrones in the upcoming weeks. So, as always, thank you all for listening, and you can check out our previous episodes at mediocregamers.com and on iTunes and the Google Play Store. And you can watch us play some games and spout nonsense on YouTube at bit.ly/mgctube, or you can just search for Mediocre Gamers and you'll see our logo. You can also check out our Facebook and Twitter at 2mediocregamers, and you can also find a link to our YouTube page on our Facebook and our website, mediocregamers.com. So drop a like, subscribe, give us some feedback, tell us about all the wrong things that we said this episode and in our previous episodes, because we need to hear from you folks. Also, jump on Discord with us. We will have links in the show notes for everything. So until next time, I'm Caleb.
I'm RJ.
I'm Crimson.
Now get out there and play some games.